Section 31 begins to put pen to paper. Airiam may be making her triumphant return to Star Trek Discovery, and we've got a little bit of news regarding Nickelodeon. Let's pour it up! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Earl Grey Pour Up. We've got 3 news stories for you today. 2 I've covered in P2 videos, but a third that's kind of like a little tail-end story that I wanted to tack onto this one. I don't think it really needs a P2 video, but the first story I want to go ahead and get into is obviously the potentially return of Airiam inside of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. So, for those of you who may not be aware, and potentially, some spoilers, I guess, already are abound with that, but Airiam did die during the episode Project Daedalus inside of Discovery Season 2, and it looked to be like the end of her particular story. However, it was spotted inside of a filming location in Toronto just a couple of weeks ago that a name tag on one of the trailer doors was labeled as Lieutenant Airiam. So, it's interesting. It's potentially that she may be returning. It could just be, an Easter egg for a different character. It could just be like a joke. It could be a misdirection to kind of get us down thinking that Airiam's coming back to prep us for something else. I don't quite know. So my personal theories for how this might play out is somebody found her inside of her, torpedo tube body, similar to that of the way that they found Spock's body on the Genesis planet after he landed there, and his death inside of, the Star Trek film Wrath of Khan. But it is also possible that this entire thing could just be a simple flashback sequence, or maybe even a reshoot of maybe like a computer hologram of all of the, Discovery crew hanging out, and Airiam is in that or something like that. Maybe not a full-blown like flashback, but maybe it's like somebody's like reminiscing about the good old days. Maybe like Tilly's watching a video of all of her, her friends that may have perished potentially in the fight at the end of season 2, and she wanted to remember them. So it's possible that she was back for that, but it would be weird for her to have a special trailer this late in filming, because they are filming, I think, episode 11-ish right now, and they do kind of film chronologically for Discovery, so it would be kind of weird to put her there, for that kind of thing. So is it possible that we're going to be getting a flashback? I think it's possible. I do think that there are some shenanigans that are going to be going on with time travel as a whole for Discovery Season 3. We had a whole bunch of time travel stuff going on for Discovery Season 2, but I believe there's going to be some more time travel stuff happening in Season 3, specifically because they have to get Michelle Yeoh out of the future and back into the TOS era where the Section 31 show is supposed to take place. And that time travel piece may involve something to do with Airiam, possibly her mind being downloaded into the Discovery computer, may resurrect her body in some way, maybe they rebuild her in some way, or perhaps her going back into the past, Michelle Yeoh's character going back into the past saves Airiam somehow. I'm not quite sure, but I do think they're probably going to be connected in some way, because obviously her death was in the past and Michelle Yeoh needs to get to the past, so it's possible they may in fact be connected, but that's just pure speculation at this point. We don't really know anything beyond, potentially anything beyond that, so I'm curious to see how they go about doing that. I was kind of interested. I don't really care so much about the character Airiam. It's something against the actress or the character. It's just that we didn't really get an opportunity to spend that much time with her for me to really get invested in her return. But what excites me is why they decided to bring her back and how they may do it. I am very curious to see what is going on with Star Trek Discovery Season 3. There's so many different elements, the loss of the Federation and kind of that breaking up, and obviously arriving there, there doesn't seem to really potentially be even Starfleet hanging around. We don't know what is going on, and now we have to get Michelle Yeoh back to the future, or excuse me, back to the past. She's in the future, she has to get back to the past, and now they have Airiam potentially on set doing some scenes and filming some scenes. So I'm like, what is going on in this show? What are they writing? Like, I'm very excited to see all the kinds of twists and turns that we may get to experience potentially inside of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. So speaking about Michelle Yeoh, obviously we just got a long, lengthy variety interview with Alex Kurtzman and Julie McNamara, where they talked a lot about upcoming Trek shows, mainly about Picard, but they did mention a bit about the Section 31 show and about how they have started to flesh out the pilot and started to put pen to paper for some of these scripts. So they're obviously rolling full steam ahead with that show. And I would say that I would agree and echo a lot of the statements some of y'all put down on my P2 video about the Michelle Yeoh Section 31 video, which is that nobody seems to really be interested in this show. I would say that I'm also not interested at all in having a Section 31 show. I have no desire to see one. It's nothing against Michelle Yeoh. It's nothing against Shazid Latif. It's nothing against the writers or Secret Hideout. It's just I'm not interested in it at all. But I will say, though, the bar for the show is not low, it's non-existent. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean that to say, like, it's just their wheelhouse. Nobody has any expectations. Nobody's expecting anything. Nobody wants anything from it. Nobody even wants the show, period. But if they come in and have an amazing show and knock it out of the park and something that's really unexpected, I mean, they have so much room to grow because I think that's a benefit to them. Whereas like Discovery, being the first Star Trek show coming right out of the gate, had a lot of pressure on it to be successful. And even Picard has a lot of pressure on it to be successful and be a fan hit. Whereas this Section 31 show really just kind of is open. You know, there's not a lot of pressure with it to be the best thing ever or to revitalize Star Trek or save the franchise and bring it back into the norm. It's just another show that is going to be folded into, you know, the long-running franchise, and nobody has really any interest in it, and that could potentially hurt them. But if they start popping out some really interesting trailers, start, you know, doing some good PR, start talking about how good the show is going to be, and starts to get the buzz going, that's going to be a really easy place to start because you're starting basically from nothing and going up. So you're not all the way at the top and you have to meet or beat those high expectations. You're starting from bottom, and that could work in their favor. And I know it sounds like maybe I'm being a little mean with that, but I'm really being positive to say that could really be in their favor to really just surprise everyone with a show that we didn't even know that we wanted, which I think would be really great. All right, so the final story that I want to go ahead and talk about, which is something that kind of came out kind of on the tail end of the news cycle that I think came out maybe about a week or two ago, which is that CBS All Access is going to start airing and has already started airing several different Nickelodeon shows on CBS All Access. So the reason I bring that up is obviously we do have the Star Trek animated Nickelodeon show that is going to be coming out possibly in 2021. And I think it's interesting that with the merger of CBS Viacom and all that stuff like that coming together, that the Nickelodeon brand that's attached to them is now being put onto CBS All Access. And now it kind of connects and makes sense why they went to Nickelodeon. CBS went to Nickelodeon. I think they were kind of preempting the remerger coming up here shortly. That's supposed to be happening this month, like very shortly here. You know, I think they were preempting that a little bit by going straight to Nickelodeon because they knew that they were going to be working with them anyways. So I think it's cool that they're pulling in some of the cool Nickelodeon shows and putting that on there and kind of building up that relationship, you know, at least stateside. I know CBS All Access International is a different beast altogether, but at least stateside, they're starting to build up that relationship to kind of grease, you know, I guess, you know, the wheels there in preparations for more, potentially more content, not just Trek related, but specifically for the Star Trek show in 2021. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the rumor rundown. Okay, so we just have one video to talk about today, and that is a Midnight's Edge video that came out just a little bit ago in regards to the coverage surrounding Star Trek 4 and its announcement with Noah Hawley coming back to do the directing of Star Trek 4 and the expected return of the entire Kelvin crew. This is what I've been kind of dubbing as Star Trek 4-A, you know, it's just kind of my little name for it, but they did a video about it, and I actually liked the video very well. It was well made. They did a great job recapturing, you know, everything that happened. They did a great job with presenting some of the hurdles that Noah, you know, Hawley and the rest of the Kelvin production team are going to face kind of moving back into the film verse there. So they did a really great job there. The only things, of course, that I disagreed with were at the tail end of the video where they mentioned two things. The first one is that this announcement was only there to try to drum up investor money. And then number two is that Sherry Redstone hates everything about CBS All Access, Bad Robot, and Secret Hideout / Alex Kurtzman and is looking to potentially get rid of all of those things all at once. So the reason I don't agree with the whole investor thing is not every movie has to be ran up like a fundraiser. These production studios do have money and they can just fund it internally. Obviously, having investors would be better, and perhaps they want to have investors, you know, kind of offset some of those costs. But I think, in conjunction with the investor thing, so hold that over here, but I think that their intention with this announcement was to gauge the temperature of the Trek fan base to see who was interested in seeing the Star Trek 4 and the Kelvin crews to return. And I think that does kind of pull back from that pin of the investors. That does connect back to that because if there's a lot of social media impressions and social media buzz about Star Trek 4 coming back, that will drum up money and investors because people are going to want to get into that excitement and they may smell some kind of a profit for themselves. So that they are kind of related, but I don't think it was just about raising that money. I think it was more focused on gauging that temperature, which will potentially lead to more investment money. But I do think that they're interested to see where the fan base is in regards to the Kelvin universe and bringing back, you know, that whole crew and kind of going back into that universe. And I would say for my own video and some of the videos that I checked out and some of the feeds I was looking at on Twitter, I would say it's probably about 75 to 80% positive and 20% has been negative. But I don't hang out on a lot of the negative areas, so your experience on that may vary a little bit. But from my impression, it was more of like, yeah, okay, let's go back there. Let's see what they've got going on. If not, most people, and kind of myself too, want to have a proper send-off of the Kelvin crew and hopefully kind of put a pin in that whole situation where they go back and maybe, save Spock from going back into the past or something like that, which may even connect into the Picard show, but that's a whole nother thing altogether. But, I think that'd be a nice way to kind of, put a pin in and kind of end the Kelvin universe and give them a proper send-off. That was a lot of the sentiment that I saw, mixed with people just excited to see those characters back in action. But there was some negative reaction to that. And again, your opinions your experience on that may vary. But my experience was it's pretty positive. So I guess we'll wait to see if we get a more formal announcement, if we start getting a date set, if we start getting any kind of, information about writing and scripts and when the cast officially will sign on for sure. So I think we're going to get a little bit more information on that in the coming months, probably in the first half of next year. And I think they're also kind of, again, throwing that in the water to test kind of the waters out to see how the Trek fan base is doing. And they're probably going to do another thing after Picard launches to see, again, if people are still interested inside of Star Trek 4. The other thing that I disagreed with in their video is that Sherry Redstone kind of hates everything Bad Robot, Secret Hideout, and Alex Kurtzman related. Their kind of insider source there told them that it was all relations to the fact that she hates Les Moonves, which I think we all know that she hated Les Moonves, but because of her hatred for Les and her apparent feelings that, everyone's mismanaging Star Trek, she's going to step in and fire everybody and cancel everything and reset what's going on. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that would be pretty bold. They also tacked on that she does not like CBS All Access because it was Les Moonves' kind of baby, and she may try to mothball that. That I don't view that as happening at all. CBS has spent so much money, time, energy, and effort in making CBS All Access a thing that it would be surprising if they mothball that and all of the Star Trek productions. What I do foresee happening is a merger of the Showtime streaming service and the CBS streaming service into one streaming service, probably increasing that price a little bit. That also includes the Paramount library and all that jazz. That is what I do expect to see overall from Sherry Redstone, and her direction for the new Viacom CBS Corporation. And there's no indication that Alex Kurtzman and company are going to be fired and they're going to mothball everything that's going on with current Star Trek. Obviously, that's what, that particular group would like to see because they just like Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout and everything that they're doing with that. But of course, there's no information regarding that, and there's no indication that she's heading in that direction. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into the Trek Trivia question of the week. Okay, so last week's trivia question was, what killed Captain Kirk's brother? And the answer is the flying parasites on Deneva. I think you had to pronounce that planet. The flying parasites attached to him and killed him. So it's kind of an easy question. Congratulations to all of those folks that got it right. I did heart your comments, as many as I could find them, so great job there, everybody. But we have another question for this week, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging, and it's going to be focused on Voyager. This week's trivia question is, what nickname did the Voyager crew give to the caretaker? He had a very specific nickname that they used a few different times, and it was in relations to something that he was doing inside of this series. That's the only hint I'll give you. So good luck to everybody who's going to be vying for this trivia question. Of course, I will heart all the correct answers as we gear up for the next Earl Grey pour-up, so good luck. All right, let's go and jump right into the comment of the week. Okay, so this week's comment comes from user God's Nostrils, and it says, I'm rather hoping the depiction of Data having been successfully downloaded into B4 and being captain of the Enterprise E will not be canon. This was depicted in the Countdown prequel comics to the first Kelvin timeline film. It would totally cheapen Data's sacrifice. Well, you know what, God's Nostrils, which is arguably a very weird name, but you know what, God's Nostrils, I would agree that doing that would definitely cheapen his sacrifice in Star Trek Nemesis, and I think would kind of undermine a little bit of what the plot appears to be inside of Star Trek Picard, which is to, guys, resurrect Data and dealing with Picard's guilt over his sacrifice in the film. So I don't think that's going to be canon anymore, and considering that the new Picard Countdown comic is supplanting that, kind of overriding the old prequel Countdown comic to Star Trek 2009, I don't think that's canon anymore, so I don't think you have to worry about that, and I would be surprised if they tried to squeeze that in prior to the Picard show, because again, it doesn't really seem to blend with what we're seeing from the trailers of Star Trek Picard. But thank you for your question. All right, so that wraps up today's Earl Grey pour-up. It was kind of a short one here for all of you guys and gals. Not too much news kind of happening right now. We are kind of winding down towards the end of the year, and of course, we're going to be building quite up heavily. The channel is going to be very busy, and all of us are going to be very busy January, February timeframe with Picard coming out and all the new information for any potential shows, Pike. But I just wanted to go ahead and get some of these news stories out there for all of you guys and gals. But I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals think. Do you think Airiam is going to come back, and how do you think she's going to do that? You think it's going to be a flashback, or are they going to resurrect her in some way? And also, what do you think of ways that they're going to bring Michelle Yeoh back into the TOS era for Section 31? I'm curious to hear what all of you guys and gals think about that. Get your comments down below, and we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my trickies!